Greetings, Rebel fans. My name is Jason Kelly. This is the Let's Run podcast. I want to welcome you all to the show today. A lot going on around the world of UNLV athletics right now. An insane amount going on, actually. We have new football coaches. We have the Runnin Rebels starting conference play, a hugely important conference play for the future of the program. We have Jacob DeJesus announcing he's leaving in the transfer portal. That was a bummer to see. We have, and this was a viewer request, the Gonzaga basketball team almost dying on the airport runway. Kind of funny there. I mean, not funny at all. Could have been really tragic, but kind of funny that, that's not something that I usually talk about, but that would have been something that would have affected all of college basketball. So we're glad that they're safe. Thank goodness. Thank God that they're safe. But yeah, just a ton going on right now. It's a busy time of year for the Runnin Rebels. It's a busy time of year for the UNLV football program. Tomorrow we have Boise State playing against Penn State in the college football playoff. College. I always like to say it like that because if you listen to Joel Klatt, he's a big college football commentator, and that's how he always says college football. So I think that's kind of funny. Just a lot to go over. Let's start with the UNLV football coaching staff. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put up on screen and go ahead and put stuff in the comments. Anything you guys put up, I will share on the screen and we can talk about it. But I'm going to share a screen. We're going to open up Twitter real quick because the UNLV football Twitter page has done a really good job of tweeting out everybody today. So let's go on to that. Honestly, a lot of great names staying. I think that the staff and Dan Mullen specifically has done a really good job of kind of maintaining a level of continuity on the UNLV football staff kind of front. So let's go over these names. First one, this is maybe, I feel like we knew this one was happening. And most of these names we've known a lot about going back quite a while, honestly. But, the big one, Hunky Cooper, he has kind of been a mainstay in the UNLV football space for a while now. Really good guy who really loves the city, loves the town. The players love him. It's an honor and a pleasure to have him back under Dan Mullen's staff. I think that's a very good builder of continuity. This is one that I was not expecting. Usually when guys take interim positions for bowl games, often that can lead to them getting, higher paying jobs in other places. But I would say that Dan Mullen probably recognized the culture and really just the professionalism and respect that a guy like Del Alexander has. Obviously, he was the coach for the UNLV football team's stellar victory over the Cal Golden Bears. Just honored to have him back. Really good guy. Represents the program well, a professional, and somebody that will help us lead continuity. Another guy returning, Ricky Logo, one of the great names in all of college sports that I've ever seen, Ricky Logo. Big fan of him. Been around for a while. Great for continuity, especially on the defensive line. That's a position area that I've been really concerned about in the transfer portal. I feel okay about, our offensive line. We're losing some guys. But, I feel okay about some of the names there. But the defensive line, you lose guys like Jalen St. John and Fisher K-Mac, names that you really don't want to lose. And so I'm hoping that keeping Coach Logo around can help, bring the continuity of the defensive line and maybe bring back some names. Coach Davis. So this is Akeem Davis, cornerbacks coach, still sticking around. Big fan of him. Again, continuity. I really liked this staff under Barry Odom, and I like that that Coach Mullen is keeping guys like Akeem Davis around. This is kind of one that we've known that this was the case for a long time, but Coach Arnett. So Zach Arnett, if you don't know much about him, he's been a long stay in the SEC, was around a lot of programs. He actually took over Mississippi State when Coach Mike Leach, who was a treasure in all of college football, tragically died a couple of years ago. So Zach Arnett kind of took over as the head coach at Mississippi State. that didn't end super well. You know, the SEC teams do not have a lot of patience for their coaches, and rightly so. You know, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of money, a lot of expectations there. So Zach was not a coach. I think he was only a coach at Mississippi State, but he was a head coach at Mississippi State for maybe 7 or 8 games. But he had been at Mississippi State for a while. He and Coach Mullen go a long way back. Um, and so really happy to have him. You saw some signings. Let me elaborate a little bit. Coach Mullen is an offensive guy. Um, Fundamentally, Coach Mullen is a guy, you know, that's going to be very important to our offensive identity. He will be involved. I don't know if he'll be calling plays, but I would imagine that he will be more involved in the offense than Coach Odom was. And so defense is the side of the ball that a lot of Coach Mullen's teams have not been absolutely stellar at. Not that they've been terrible by any means, but Coach Mullen certainly is an offensive guy. So bringing in a guy with some cachet, with some serious experience in Zach Arnett, just an outstanding selection by Coach Mullen. Grateful that Arnett is coming to coach for the Rebels. I really believe that he's going to be kind of a co-coach of the team in a way. You could say he's probably going to be Coach Mullen's number two. I would think that a guy like Dell Alexander is going to be a big deal as well, just because of the continuity. Just going over some other things. We had heard about this name, so Ben Chrisman. He's a offensive lineman for Kentucky. Grateful to have him. The other names that have been official: JoJo Earl. He was a former 5-star recruit to the University of Alabama. Was a very hyped player coming out of high school. Never really got it together in Alabama. Then went to TCU again, where he had an okay year, but he's a big talent. He's a little small for my book, but you know, 5'10", 176. He's a serious talent. People still have a lot of faith in him turning into somebody great. Other names: this is the tight end from South Carolina that we'd heard about very early on in Coach Mullen's time. This is our quarterback being announced. He kind of looks like Zach Wilson in that picture. Again, a little small. I'd like to see him put on some weight. Jalen Glover, that's the running back from Utah. So that's been what the actual Twitter page itself has announced. But you know, a lot of other names that we've heard about. There's been a lot of transfers. Obviously, Jacob DeJesus is a name that a lot of Rebel fans, you know, we didn't really believe that he had any eligibility left. And you know, Jacob DeJesus treated this season like his senior season, like it was going to be. But the Diego Paiva JUCO ruling that gave JUCO players an extra year of eligibility has benefited Jacob DeJesus. And you know, I would love to have Jacob back. Even a guy like Tony Grimes, I would love to have back. But here's the thing: Jalen Catalon, another guy still in the transfer portal that I would love to have back. These guys, you know, especially ones that are granted additional years of eligibility, if it's their last year, what I would suggest to them is do whatever is best for your financial future, especially a guy like Jacob DeJesus, who has a daughter and has, you know, a family that he has to provide for. I just think Jacob has to do whatever's best for Jacob. And that kind of goes for a lot of the players that have transferred out. And actually, you know, when you have a coach leave, when you have a coach go to Purdue, and you lose a lot of your coaching staff, you know, we lost Sher, we lost our special teams coordinator. Players can leave. You know, it's completely fine. It's a part of life. You commit to play for a coach, and then that coach goes somewhere else. And so it's just a fact of life. It's okay. These guys, these kids that come to UNLV, committed to Coach Odom just as much as they committed to UNLV football itself. So nothing against any of them. Jacob, I would love to have Jacob back. I hope Coach Mullen is putting together as lucrative a NIL offer for a guy like Jacob, who has so much cachet in this program. I hope that Coach Mullen is putting together as good of a financial package as possible for him. These guys in the portal, technically, you know, we can still re-recruit them. We can still bring them back. And I'm sure Coach Mullen, for a guy like Jacob, would do that. But there's a lot of guys and a lot of players that are going to want to be coming to UNLV too. And so players, when they enter into the portal, they risk losing their spot. Oftentimes, players that are into the portal are kind of being pushed out because they just don't really have a place in the future of the program. That's a sad reality of college sports too. Um, so guys in the portal, you know, it's just a fact of life for college football, especially those that have very limited have like 1 year of eligibility left. If it's a freshman who got playing time who's leaving as a sophomore, I kind of understand fans gripes with them a little bit. But when it's a player who has 1 year left, who has one opportunity left to make as much money as they can, especially with their coach leaving, I don't really feel ill will towards any rebel that entered the transfer portal, and I'll be supporting them no matter what for the remainder of their careers, whether that be professional or in college. So yeah, Coach Mullen really getting his staff together. And what does the QB room look like? Right now I'm not 100% sure. And if anybody listening to this has information on this, I do not know if Cam Friel has another year of eligibility. From what I understand, he should have. He's not a COVID guy because he came in after COVID. But this was his fourth year. He played this year as a senior. He hasn't entered the transfer portal, from what I've understood. I don't think that he would be given a Division I starting job anywhere. And so I'm not sure that he has a path outside of UNLV. But I would love to have him back, as a backup for a guy like Anthony Colandrea. In fact, I would love for Colandrea to beat out Cam Friel for the starting QB spot. You like having competition in the quarterback position. And so that would be my hope, that we can bring a guy like Cam Friel back. Gail Ochoa is a guy that's still on the roster, quarterback. He was a 3-star out of El Paso, Texas. UNLV beat out UTEP, who was, really pursuing him very hard. And so if our quarterback room is Ochoa, Friel, and Colandrea, I think that's a good foundation. Maybe you can add another name, but that's probably about as good as you're going to get in terms of legit quarterback options. And I hope that Friel can come back. I'm not 100% sure exactly what's going on with his eligibility. I believe he could have a redshirt year if he wanted. And so as of right now, I'm working on the assumption that he is coming back, but I could totally be wrong about that. So Coach Mullen doing wonderful things. I want to talk about basketball, the Runnin Rebels. So the Runnin Rebels put forward what was pretty easily their best offensive performance of the year in a home win over, and I'm going to pull up KenPom here just so you guys can kind of see what I'm seeing. Let's pull up KenPom, which is kind of the preeminent source of college basketball statistics. So this is UNLV on the year in KenPom. I don't know that, Ken Pomeroy, not that he's watching this, the guy that runs KenPom, he probably wouldn't like me showing this. This is the stuff that's behind the paywall. But you can see a little bit about the Rebels so far this year. Right now, KenPom has the Rebels going 16-15, 10-10 in conference play. They have the Rebels starting 3-0 in conference play and then going on a 4-game losing streak, basically, and then have the Rebels losing 9 of their next 10. So the Rebels are kind of in an early part of conference play where these 3 games against Fresno State, Air Force, and San Jose State are all absolutely critical to winning in order to give the Rebels. I mean, they just in the Mountain West this year, which the Mountain West is not as good as it has been in the past, especially last year. But the Mountain West is a conference that will eat you alive if you're not careful. And what do I mean by that? I mean that the Runnin' Rebels haven't really had a great home field advantage over the last 12 years or so. As the Thomas and Mack has gotten emptier and emptier, and fans' focus has moved to things like the Golden Knights and professional sports in Las Vegas, home court advantage hasn't really been the boon that it needs to be for the Runnin' Rebels. So what does that mean? It means that good teams like San Diego State, Boise State, Utah State, they will often come into the Thomas and Mack and win. And so, chalking up, oh, we're going to win every game at home. That's not really something that happens in college basketball. Even really good teams, that doesn't happen. So you cannot lose bad games on the road to bad teams in the Mountain West now. In the past, the Anthony Bennett, Anthony Marshall era, Dave Rice era, you could afford to lose a game at Wyoming, or you could afford to lose a game at Air Force and still kind of contend because everybody was losing those games. And we had such a good home court advantage that we were beating everybody at home. But that's just not the case anymore. This game at Air Force is absolutely massive, as I've been saying recently. So let's dive into the matchup here. Air Force has not been good. They have been a really rough offense and defense, basically in the 270s in both categories. They have, believe it or not, UNLV's biggest weakness is that they have been a poor rebounding team. Air Force is even worse than UNLV on the boards. They're small. They can shoot, but they're small and they're unathletic. They have been really good in three-point percentage. They tend to take and make a lot of three-pointers. That's something that has always been the case for Air Force. And in games where you play Air Force, essentially, if they're not hitting their threes, you're going to beat them. Yeah, I'll talk about DJ. So, sure, I'll bring that. So to the masshole who's listening, everybody, make sure you're following the masshole. One of the best accounts on Twitter. He's asking about DJ. I'll talk about that just as soon as I finish up with Air Force. But yeah, Air Force can hit threes. If they're making them, they could beat you. If they're not making them, they're not going to beat you. They're top 50 in 3-point percentage, 3-point attempts. They're 17th in attempts versus field goals made from the 3-point line. They're really good at shooting threes. They're not good at a lot else, but they're really good at shooting threes. So what do the Rebels have to do? They have to play disciplined on defense. Now, Air Force's offense is not some world beater, but they can't afford to give Air Force, especially in the first 10 minutes of the game, open looks from the 3-point line. It's better to kind of let Pop and Bear try and contest guys at the rim as opposed to letting Air Force have wide open threes. Close out hard, the Rebels have to close out hard, but they also can't get up in the air. Just solid, steady, grounded closeouts are probably going to be enough to bother these Air Force shooters. Looking at the Air Force team, their best player, at least according to KenPom, is Caleb Walker. He's a 6'9" forward. See, he makes threes. It's kind of just he's shooting 50% from three on the year. Ethan Taylor's another good player. You see that they actually have a little bit of size. They do have a 7-footer, Wesley Kelichowski. But their players are a bunch of 6'3" to 6'7" white guys. I hate to say it that way, but white guys that can make threes. Not that different from Air Force teams in the past, perhaps a little less talented, but just as deadly. And so UNLV is going to have to chase them off the 3-point line. If UNLV can keep them to 10 threes made or so, that's probably enough to win. That would be my goal. The Rebels have to be a little more aggressive on the offensive glass, and they just have to be steady. Talking about individual players, this is where I'll talk about DJ. Love DJ. I think every Rebel fan loves DJ. We love the fact that he came back. I think him coming back was a nice piece of confidence building for Kevin Kruger, for the coaching staff, for the recruiting staff. UNLV warded off some pretty serious financial offers for DJ this year. And so we had high hopes for him. The first half of last year, DJ was good, but he wasn't great. In conference play last year, after, basically from the beginning, actually, DJ was spectacular. He was very good. He was a star. He went to New Mexico and outdueled Donovan Dent in the pit. He led us to a couple of great games against San Diego State. He was efficient in the paint. He was a good scorer. He was averaging 14 a game. And this year, while his raw numbers don't look that different, what has been different, and I really like how Mike Ramala pointed this out pretty well in the Las Vegas Sun. So if it sounds like I'm quoting him, I kind of am. DJ's been pretty inefficient in the paint. Just looking at DJ's numbers this year, let's jump into his numbers. DJ has been 41% from two. You know, DJ is actually shooting barely better from two than he is from three. Um, and so DJ just hasn't been, when he's been getting into the paint, he hasn't been finishing efficiently. If you look through his box scores, you see he just, 5 of 12, 4 of 11, 3 of 12. That game against New Mexico State, he was really rough. That game at Dayton was not a great DJ game. He was struggling from the free throw line earlier in the year. He's gotten better late, but he was struggling from the free throw line earlier in the year. And DJ just hasn't been as transcendent as we had hoped. If DJ had been the player that he was to end last year, we probably would not have gone 0-5 in the non-conference against every quality team that we've played. That's just a fact of life. If DJ was the superstar that we had hoped that he would become this year, we would, be a pretty respectable team. And the Rebels are basically, if you see how they're talked about by other fan bases, we're kind of a wild card because, again, it's a bit of a meme at this point. But the Rebels haven't lost to a bad team yet. They're maybe the only Mountain West team, I think, maybe besides San Diego State, that hasn't lost to a bad team. Right now, we're 102 in KenPom. We've gone up. We were down all the way to 114. That win against UC Riverside is actually our best win of the year, believe it or not. But this Runnin Rebel team is really kind of a mystery, and it kind of remains a mystery to me. And DJ is the biggest reason why. Yeah, he's looked a little flat. He's looked a little non-energetic. Why is that? Could it be because Rob Whaley's been out? Whaley was expected to be our second best player this year. Could it be a little bit of a lack of depth? I know everybody loves to clown on me, but I think Jace Whiting would be helpful right now to kind of relieve some pressure off of DJ, just in 10 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes a game as a backup point guard. Is it because he doesn't see the talent on this team? Is it because Bear Cherry has been struggling mightily? I'm not really sure, actually. I think that UNLV has to open up 3-0 to start conference play. And I think that we're going to know kind of what DJ has and what DJ is. If he's the superstar we all believe and hope that he is, we're going to see. So UNLV plays Air Force and San Jose State, should be 3-0. Then we start a positively grueling away stretch and home stretch. We play at Boise State. KenPom only gives us a 23% chance of winning that game. UNLV went up to Boise last year. Rob Whaley was a big part of that victory last year. We did win last year in Boise, but this year it's going to be a tougher task because our team is just not as talented. We play at Colorado State. Colorado State opened up conference play with a great win at the University of Reno, but then they turned around and lost a pretty non-competitive game to New Mexico. Then we play at Utah State at home. That's a tough game. Utah State just went on the road and upset San Diego State. That's going to be really, really difficult to win. Then we play at San Diego State, a place that we have won once in the last 10 years. In fact, that's a lot, and actually that's better than a lot of other Mountain West teams. Then the schedule kind of lightens up a little bit again. We get a home game against Wyoming. Then we play home against New Mexico. That's a team that the Rebels have had a lot of success against, but it's tough. We have a home and away game at Utah State, and then an away game at Reno, and a home game against Boise State. That's a 9-game stretch that KenPom only has us winning one singular game. They have us beating Wyoming at home. That's a 9-game stretch where the future and fate of Kevin Kruger as a head coach, of DJ Thomas as a Runnin Rebel, it's all going to be decided in that 9-game stretch. What can the Rebels realistically hope to do? 5-4, probably. That's probably the best that they could hope for. KenPom has us going 1 of 8, but 5-4 is probably top tier, best scenario. That keeps UNLV probably in the running for the conference. But the thing is, in order for Kevin Kruger to keep his job based on performance alone, taking the Mountain West Conference tournament out of the equation, it's probably going to take winning the Mountain West Conference regular season championship. Um, I don't know that Utah State as a program is going to lose more than 4 or 5 games. It's probably 4 games is going to be if I had to predict, the winner of the Mountain West Conference is only going to lose 4 games. And so, the schedule will lighten up considerably after that. We get Wyoming away. It's a game I think we can win. We get Air Force at home. It's a game we should win. Fresno State at home, Colorado State at home, San Jose State again. And then we end out with a tougher stretch. But the Runnin Rebels, if we do go 1-8 or 2-7 or something along those lines in that 9-game stretch, just to do the math, say we open 3-0, that would get us to 9-5. Then if we were to go 2-7 in that 9-game stretch, then we would be what, 9-12, something like that. I'm sorry, I can't do the math that quickly. We'd have a losing record. It'd be halfway through conference play, and it would be pretty apparent that Kevin Kruger was going to be done. We don't even have to wait till the end of the season to know kind of how this Runnin Rebel season is going to end. This 9-game stretch will tell us that. So what do I want to see from the Runnin Rebels to perform well? I want to see Bear Cherry. This is something, it's been a pet peeve of mine, but Bear has been an abject disaster in the post as of late. Now, he's still been scoring somewhat efficiently, but there's been a lot of turnovers, a lot of inefficiencies, a lot of pass outs. And I've noticed, and again, I think Bear is dealing with some health issues. So this isn't, an indictment on him as a player. But Bear doesn't look right in the post. He doesn't seem to be scoring well. Every time he dribbles more than once, it's ending in turnovers or bad passes. And so UNLV needs to play small and play fast. I think that's their avenue to win. Okay, sorry. Yes, you're correct. I'm not going to keep that up long, but yes, you are correct, Massel. I think there's a conditioning issue across this team, to be honest with you. Now, I'm sure that there would be some refute of that. I'm sure that there are quite a few individual guys on the team that are in very good shape, but I'm not sure how confident I feel in our strength and conditioning at the moment, mostly because we're dealing with so many injuries. But here's what I would do if I was Kevin Kruger. Here's my formula. You start Bear still. You run 2 to 3 post-ups in the first 10 minutes. If that's not working, you kind of let, what I would tell Bear is not to be overly aggressive, but don't be afraid to get some fouls, dude, because Bear is not some indispensable part of our offense. He hasn't been really since the start of the year. If you look at Bear Cherry, let me pull up his stats. At the start of the year, he started out, with a really solid and an incredible opening, 24 points against South Alabama, struggled against Memphis, but that was mostly due to foul trouble. Then he had 17 points against Omaha, 14 points against Pepperdine, 10 points against Mississippi State. And it's kind of, 8, 8, 4, 5, 6, 12, 4. Let Bear go early, let him kind of try and get his points and get his scores early. And if it's not working, tell him to play a little bit more aggressively on the defensive side of the ball. And don't be afraid to sit him a little bit. Now, who are you going to play instead of him? I think Pop has been, the last few games, I think Pop Ndiaye has been a better player than Bear. Pop has shown a really good 3-point stroke, which is hilarious. Every time Pop goes out there and shoots, I feel completely confident that he's going to make it. Don't be scared to give Pop some run. Maybe run a super small ball lineup where you put a guy like Jalen Hill at the 5 or a guy like, I don't know, Jaden Henley at the 5. Go super small, be super fast, run your offense quick. You don't have anything to lose. If Bear Cherry is not going to be an efficient player, it seems like Jacob Barnaby, I know he's been dealing with a little injury as well, but it seems like Jacob Barnaby's probably out of the rotation for now. But go small. Play 4 small guards. Have Jaden Henley be your power forward. Put Jalen Hill on the bench and play Jalen Bedford, DJ Thomas, and Julian Rishwain all at the same time and just shoot a bunch of threes. I don't see, the vision that I had for this team starting the year was a ground and pound, Rob Whaley, Bear Cherry. I don't think Rob's coming back, sadly. Not that that's been confirmed or anything. Only Rob could confirm that, but I don't think Rob's coming back. I think it's time to embrace the guns. It's time to actually be the Runnin Rebels. You know, we're running. It's time to get up and down the court. Put the ball in the basket. Jalen Bedford, chuck up some threes. Julian Rishwain, I want to see 7 or 8 attempts a game. DJ Thomas, I want to see DJ's 3-point volume go up. I want to see him light up other teams for 3. Just take them. You have nothing to lose. What I don't want to see is Bear Cherry post ups after it's clear that he doesn't have it that night. I don't want to see Jalen Hill isolations. I want to see Jalen Hill 3-point attempts. I don't want to see Jalen Hill attack the basket, and then kind of do his little post up move that he does down low. I want to see him pull the trigger. I want to see Jalen Bedford and Julian Rishwain and DJ Thomas drive it and kick it out to the perimeter. I think that's this team's formula. And to a certain extent, you saw that against Fresno State. Now, where can that go wrong? You also saw that against Fresno State, where teams get a little too lazy, a little too one pass, immediate 3-point shot. That kind of stuff isn't going to work. You have to keep the ball moving. You have to move it around the perimeter. You have to run the break. Get Brooklyn Hicks out there. Have him. He's faster than everybody else on the court. Have him sprint down the court and dunk it every time. He can do it. Have Brooklyn Hicks shoot more threes. Don't be afraid to sit Jalen Hill or play Jalen Hill or Jaden Henley. You can play either or. You don't have to play both at the same time. Don't be afraid to sit one of those guys down and have your guards get up and down the court and score quickly. That's what I would do. Defensively, we're going to have some rebounding issues. There's no doubt. We already have some rebounding issues. That doesn't change anything. Defensively, while we might have some problems there, I think offensively you can maybe force a few more defensively you can maybe force a few more steals and get out on the fast break. I think it could help our offense be a little less clogged. And it's how I would do it. Score a bunch. I think that's the way this team can get forward. And tell DJ to don't be afraid to kind of light it up from long range. It's a stressful time. In my dream scenario, if you want to know what I want to have happen, I want to see Kevin Kruger win 6 of those 9 games, go 6-3. I want to see him win the Mountain West Conference tournament, go to the NCAA tournament. The best case scenario in my view for this program would be a Kevin Kruger extension, would be Kevin Kruger showing that he is a coach worth extending and then extending him. That's the best case scenario for this program. Is that what's going to happen? Probably not. But I would love for Kevin Kruger to step up and be the guy that we all hoped that he would be. And do I think he can do it? Yes, I do. Do I think he will do it? No, I don't. But do I think he can? Yes. Yes, I do. And it's all about attention to detail. A lot of times, the best games that I've seen Kevin Kruger coach, you can tell his game plan is being faithfully executed and that he is instructing his guys to execute, what he saw and what the rest of the coaching staff saw down to a T. That's what it's going to take. And so I guess we'll see, man. Good times ahead, bad times ahead. It's going to be a fun ride either way. So go ahead and DM me if you have any questions or something you want talked about on the next stream. I hope I talked enough about Gonzaga basketball. The Mountain West is fun. San Diego State losing at home. Reno's 0-2 to start the league. Finishing in the top 5 is a must for this Rebel team, and I think that they can do it. So I guess we'll see what happens. But I hope you guys I got a new UNLV polo here that I'm pretty happy with, pretty proud of for Christmas. So rocking UNLV gear here at the office. Hopefully my bosses don't mind me doing my podcast at the end of work from one of the offices. But I appreciate you guys. You guys have a wonderful day. If UNLV loses tomorrow night, or even if it's kind of a so-so win, I'm thinking maybe we'll do a burner brigade after the podcast, after the game tomorrow night. It will be New Year's Eve tomorrow. So I guess we'll see. Maybe we'll do a podcast. Maybe if Boise State loses to SMU, we can talk about that a little bit. But have a great New Year's. Have a great time. Be safe, and let's run.